Hey everyone, so I'm back again, but this time with an After Effects tutorial. So as you can see, this time I'm actually going to base this tutorial based on some stuff I made last night, because I learned a lot of stuff last night, including some answers to some questions of After Effects which I've been trying to work out for a very long time. So it's going to render for a bit. And I'm going to show you guys some of the stuff that I did in here, which I learnt last night. This mainly includes some of the basics, but it will also include some cool stuff, such as some parallax stuff, some masking stuff maybe, and if anything, some animation stuff and some text stuff, which is great. So I'm just going to create a new composition. Like this, and first of all if you want to import a file, you literally just go to import file and find where something is. For example, I'll probably just choose something from some Killer Snow stuff, and my After Effects is not going to work with me today. It's going to be quite slow, so if it's crashing a bit, I do apologise. It's just feeling a bit slow today. Just bear with it whilst it tries not to cry. This is running, I'm just going to wait for it to refresh itself, just takes a bit of a while. It's not usually like this. Come on After Effects, I know you can do it. Okay, clearly not. Give me one moment to restart that. Just force close it. And restart. But basically, I'm just going to show you some really basic stuff, because actually, in my honest opinion, I don't know if people will disagree with me. I've tried using Premiere Pro before, but in my actual honest opinion, I think After Effects is a bit more user-friendly, especially if you want to do stuff like text and visual effects and graphics and all that kind of stuff. So just going to open up Slide Effects again, which hopefully won't crash on me. So instead, I'm just going to go through some stuff with you. So basically, we've covered how to import stuff. You just click File, Import, and etc. You just locate to where it is, and it will come up in here, for example. So I've got some stuff here. We're going to take some scenes of Killer Frost. Okay, Killer Frost is great. You can't just ignore Killer Frost. So, okay, one of the first things I'm going to get off with is a nice bouncy zoom transition. For this, you are not going to need the graph editor just yet. This is really basic, kind of, this is kind of basic stuff. So here you've got the scale, and position, anchor point, rotation, and opacity. And through the transform toggle, you can literally do almost anything you want, okay? So we're going to start it off like this, and we're going to have some kind of nice bouncy zoom effect. I've just made it go. And again, we want to go to, like I said in my Sony Vegas tutorial, we want to go to about, I don't know, 8 frames. But I'm going to do it to 10 at this time. I'm going to make it 110% because we want to go slightly over. And take it another like 4 keyframes, go to 100. And then take another few more keyframes because we want to have a bit slow, and go to 105%. Also, one of the main things, you want to have this one on. You see this one here, you want to have it on. You want to have this one on. Motion blur is the main thing that you get in After Effects. It is automatic that you don't get in Sony Vegas. So now you've got a nice bouncy zoom transition there. The clip is kind of moving with it. And that's your average kind of bouncy transition right there. I'm gonna do another example with text in a second. So, boing, finding that. Get some nice fonts, by the way. I'm still yet to get some fonts. Maybe I'll use some Matchmaker for this. I don't know, I quite like Matchmaker. but take it all off capitals. So, boing. We're going to do some different experiments with bouncy text, so you can do pretty much anything. So again, animate it to 0, take it out to about 10. And that is how I do my bouncing transitions. You can do anything with it, pretty much. If you want to add some, like... That's not exactly as smooth as it could be. I might space these out a bit more. That's a bit more of a bouncy one. Okay, so then you got that, and then you can also do some rotation, perhaps. So I'm going to rotate it, what, that way? Yes, that way. Make it a really minus number. Okay. Then make it like that. By the way, an easy tip for you guys here is, you see I'm clicking keyframe assistant and clicking easy ease. I don't have this shortcut on my keyboard because I have a Mac and I'm using Windows on my Mac, please don't judge me. But is to press F9 and you will get easy ease. And in a moment I will show you a bit more of the stuff that you can do with easy ease, which comes in terms of the graph editor, which is really great. I'm just going to set that back to 0. And then of course you can do the same thing to animate it out again. So you've got some nice bouncy stuff in there. Bouncy, bouncy. Okay. So if I go back to the side effects now, we are going to learn how I did the zoom transition, if I can find exactly the composition I did it in. Okay, right. So, what I did, make it really, really subtle. I know some editors don't like doing this, but I find it just neatens things up a bit. I've got these keyframes right here. So this is where it starts to zoom out. It starts quite slow, and then quickens. And then obviously in the next clip, which is here, it starts off quite fast and then slows down. Okay, we're going to enter the graph editor. I'm going to copy these two over to my other composition. And we're going to reset that, because I'm not going to be using this composition anymore. We're going to reset this. We're going to take away all these keyframes. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Okay, so we've got this kind of nice overlap here. I'm just going to shorten the composition so I can see exactly what I'm doing. Doesn't help when it's 45 minutes long. Okay, so we've got kind of a nice overlap here, but we want to be starting the zoom earlier, but still enough that we've got a nice about 3 frame overlay. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we've got these here. We've had it zoom out with a nice easy ease, and I'll show you, and whilst we're doing this, I'll show you how I did that as well. And it's gone up to about here, so I'm just going to lower it a bit more. And now we're going to do this. Okay, so zoom it out quite a bit. I'm going to change this resolution to half so you guys can see what I'm doing a bit more. This might not look exactly like how I did it, in these things. So make sure these two are easy ease, and you've got to select this little toggle here, so it enables you to put it in the graph editor. Fun times. Really love the graph editor. And put that one here, and then select these keyframes, because it will show you then in the graph editor what exactly you're trying to edit. Bam, you've got this. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to make it so that it kind of lingers on for a bit before dropping. So you've got that. So as you can see, the path literally, well, quite literally tells you that it's going to suddenly drop. So it's going like this. Got a nice kind of smooth zoom out, and then it will suddenly drop like that. So that's that part done. So then it goes into this. You want to animate this opacity so that it goes like that. And then you have these keyframes here. I love these keyframes. Okay, so you want to animate the scale on this. So it's quite big to start off with because I deleted the keyframes, so it's still the original one, which I placed at that, which is about 165%. So now take it about 8 keyframes. And take it out like this. Okay, don't add, actually no, you can add the final keyframe, which is just a bit more of a zoom out, so about 100% somewhere later on. And then you're going to select these two, press easy ease, and then select them in the graph editor. This one is nice and easy. All you want to do is this, quite literally just do this. Be careful to make sure that one's going at quite a nice speed down there. Don't make sure it doesn't go below the line, otherwise it will make it smaller than the actual screen. So one thing I find irritating about this. So now you've got that. So this time, instead of it slowly going out, it's coming in quicker than slowing down. Okay. Nice. And turn off the opacity for that. And drag this one above instead. So that's a bit better. That is pretty much what it looks like in the actual composition. So graph editor is nice and simple to use if you get the hang of it. Don't fiddle about with the yellow things too much. Just make sure you're being really, really careful with them, because otherwise it's going to mess up. It's basically the slow and fast keyframe version of Sony Vegas, but just in After Effects. So that's quite nice. So that's quite nice into there, and then I've just done a similar kind of zoom right there. So if anyone's asking how I've got so much in one layer, it's because I do what's called pre-composing. So if I double click that, you've got all of these, and you've got to see where I've done my paintbrush effect, my parallax effect, a zoom and a mask, etc. Do more than one on one layer, of course. One of the main things of After Effects, if you definitely want to go for some effects kind of editing, is you need to be using a colour scheme. Mainly, I got this colour scheme pretty much inspired by Chris, Lightning X Disaster, probably one of my favourite editors on earth. And I've been watching his tutorials on how to do this kind of brush effect on the outside. Right, what else was I going to explain? Colourings, of course, I have indeed magic bullet looks, if it's going to load. Every time I press effects and presets on here, it just goes, nah. Okay, so magic bullet. I do indeed have magic bullet looks on here. So I'm just going to test this, see what it does. I'm going to allow access. Okay. So that is absolutely awesome. I wish I had used that. So it's gone from... Wow. That's some incredible look right there. That's also happens to be the kind of colouring I was looking for. So you can have a go experimenting with this. According to your colour scheme, it's so helpful. It's so helpful, honestly. So I want to take that back down, perhaps. Don't want so much of a tint. That's quite nice. That's quite nice. That's some amazing colouring there. I can imagine that they probably used that in the video I was watching as well. That's quite nice. Strength. No, I don't want the strength to be too high. Probably something like that. If I'd used that in the original video, oh my god. Yeah, so it comes this time with a lot of presets, in fact, which is quite cool. So literally, it will just do your colour palette for you. If you just select the colours that you want, just make sure they're within your range. It will do some amazing kind of colouring. It's great. So yeah, I mean, in comparison to the original video where side effects is about... It's about a purple-ish colour. I have to say, I think that's probably a better colouring than I did on the actual video. Okay, so that's quite nice right there. And create another new composition, and for example, I'm going to put some more text in there. I'm going to explain some kind of cool text stuff. I don't want that font because that's not my font at all in any kind of way. I downloaded Bold the other day. I quite like it. It's a bit like Caviar Dreams, which is another one of my favourite fonts. And I'm probably going to see what happens if I put some of this on it. Maybe it's not so much of a text one. But yeah, it adds some cool colours to the text as well. There's only a slight gradient, which is quite nice. One of my favourite things to use instead of Colorista would probably be, especially if you're looking for a bit more of a complex kind of colouring, would be the 4-colour gradient, which I experimented with last night. So you just go with the stuff that's on your colour palette. So for example, I had a really dark pink-ish, dark pink, dark purple, dark blue. So that looks quite cool. And again, you can do just like where these come in, etc. So if you wanted like a radial one, you can just drag that down and then you can have the other few colours in the background. I'm going to show you some of the plugins that I have along with this. So my Sapphire plugins are not bugged on my After Effects for some unknown reason. They work on my After Effects, it's quite nice. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how I did this one here. Not going to do the animation, I'm going to show you how I did the look. So the first thing I did was I put some of this on it, which is Bevelin Emboss. So that looks alright, quite nice-ish. I think I'd adjust the shadow colour to something that's actually in your colour palette maybe. So I'll adjust it to a deep purple. And the highlight, the white goes with everything, so that's great. I'm going to add a Sapphire Glow to it. So if I look for that in my presets, it's going to be right here. So that creates a bit more of an idea of what it was like. And then the final thing I added, you won't be able to see this very well, was a drop shadow. So I'm just going to create a new solid, probably just the one, just drag it underneath, and create a drop shadow. Onto, it doesn't help when I put it on the wrong layer, does it? Yeah, and create the drop shadow. And again, especially with things like drop shadows, you want to make sure that, like, when you're putting it on, you want to have it more or less the same colours that you're using. So a bit like that. That also gives the impression it might have some 3D depth to it, so, which is kind of a cheap way to make it look 3D. So if you put the opacity for like 100%, yeah, it would make it a little bit 3D. But that's for another time. I'll show you how to do 3D text in another time. Okay, and now that I'm back, the one other thing I would like to show you guys, which is one of my favourite things, I'm just going to delete the text again and remake it, and one of my favourite things, one of my favourite plugins of course, usually I kind of use this for action kind of stuff. You want to make sure it's 3D by the way, otherwise it's not going to work. If you don't have this, I recommend getting it, it's quite cool, is Saber. So at the moment, obviously you can see it's not occurring to the actual text, and you want to change the core type to text layer and select text. So it will be like that right now. You want to change it to something else, so you've got haze right there, and that's quite cool. There's so many presets you can get right there, so I think the one I use the most is possibly Nebula, and then I adjust it accordingly depending on what I'm doing. I think Nebula is the one I use really for masks. Arc Reactor, that's quite a nice one. I like Arc Reactor. This is kind of for the action kind of raw stuff that you want to do. Doesn't really go well with effects, candy, etc. I'm going to get absolutely salted on for saying that. No, it goes really well for that kind of thing. And the main thing being is that if you are someone who uses Roto Brush for masking, because sometimes it can be easier depending on what you're masking, it does not work on Roto Brush. You've got to hand mask you've got to hand mask the footage if you want to use it on a mask. You can't actually have had the mask downloaded already. You need to actually mask it yourself before adding Saber to it. So whatever you do, don't green screen the mask and then, or download it off someone else and try and put Saber on it, because it's not going to work. You need to actually mask it yourself. So I don't think I used Saber at all in any of this. I could have used it on this, but instead I did something different. This is credits to Chris, who showed me the paintbrush tool in his tutorial. So if you want to go follow his tutorials, they're absolutely amazing. They're especially amazing in terms of colouring and original effects, so this is totally not original in any way, is the paintbrush tool. So the paintbrush tool pretty much is the paintbrush tool. So as you can see, it's got a nice kind of animated outline. What I did each time was I drew around Kaylin, aka Killer Frost, right there. Set the duration of it to about, if I have a look, I set the duration of it, it changed about every 3 frames. So the animation wasn't too fast, wasn't too slow, it was great. And so every 3 frames you redid the animation around it and the brush would come up. So an easier way to do this, if you have one, I would highly recommend using your pen and tablet to draw around this, because I don't know about you, but I have really shaky hands. So it's much easier to use a painting tool and your tablet around this. Gives a kind of comic impression, if you can see what I mean. Here. Is that the frames, if you don't want kind of wobbly frames at the end of it and you're still using easy ease, I recommend that you do the easy ease graph thing that I showed you earlier, but then when it comes to actually, if I have a look where I put it, I think it's down in one of these. Lovely scene. So this is under the radial wipe. It's one of the main things which I was doing. If you don't want it to kind of wave at the end, you need to change the last keyframe so that it goes back to linear. So it has a kind of sudden effect, it's quite cool. Otherwise it will look a bit strange and a bit wobbly, the keyframe might go back and forth, etc. And the same goes with any other kind of thing you want to have that effect on. Yeah. Okay. So one of the other things I'm going to show you how to do is probably the last thing. I'll just take an example with another scene of Killer Frost. I'm going to actually do a proper tutorial on this. You've got some nice Killer Frost scenes right there. So I just use a slower scene. Killer Frost is one of my favourite characters, by the way. It's going to be a bit of lip flap here, but I'm just using it for a tutorial, so I don't think it really matters. My favourite things, especially within live action editing, is the parallax error. It's not really parallax error, but it's called the parallax effect. So, okay, so you have this at first, and I'm trying to think of an idea to do. Don't know if I want to replicate my one that I did in Side Effects, but okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have Kaylin like that. And we're going to use this ellipse tool right here. Go onto the masking tool. Just duplicate the layer quickly because we don't want to use that layer. And to make this perhaps, I don't know, black and white. So as you can see, we've got that like there. Nice kind of Caitlin parallax. And then you can do some kind of stuff underneath it, which involves like making the scene bigger, doing linear and radial wipe to do some parallax transitions, all that kind of stuff. I tend to use Sapphire Circle instead because for some reason After Effects doesn't give the right kind of transition that I'm looking for. So I'm just going to add a quick drop shadow to this. barely visible, but that's kind of the point. So I think perhaps in this one, what I'm going to do is transform to make her look bigger. And add a bit of a blur to her. This is just some kind of genuine ideas I like to think up of off the top of my head. And then you can use the transitions to change things however you want. So, I've got this right here. I'm just gonna... In fact, I'm gonna remove that mask from her, and instead I'm gonna have kind of a box one. So I'm just gonna rectangle tool, quite big. Make that bigger. Drag it over here a bit. Nice kind of Caitlin tool right there. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the Caitlin on top, and then we're going to do some interesting things with it. This is just kind of the basic things that you can do if you want to do that. Just checking my Discord real quick and just got Peter. Special shout out to him because he's awesome. Take the sound off of this. So you've got that and that going in the background. Love it. I'm going to animate this now, so I'm going to animate a background actually. Again, duplicate the layer, do what you want with it, I don't know. Add a colour thing to it and change the thing so it's back at 0, well back at 100% even. Or perhaps even, I don't know, reverse it. So it's the other way around. She looks demonic in this, but then again, she is supposed to be badass. Effects. And to go for a linear wipe, you can just change the direction on which she appears in. So you've got that going on in the background, and then perhaps you might want to make a bigger version on top. So I'm going to control the and delete the mask, but make it so that she's bigger. And add another linear wipe to it. So you kind of want it to be like, this is my mouse just playing up, so don't mind me. Probably about that angle. This is just one of the cool things you can do with After Effects. You can do it the same in Sony Vegas as well, I'm just explaining how to do it here. And I'm going to add a quick linear wipe to the bottom one as well. Middle one, my bad. Forgot it was on top. So you have a kind of nice parallax thing there. That's just an idea. In this one I just kind of did multiple same transitions with different colours and then added a rotating mask triangle. To the top, that's quite easy. All you need to do is just use one of these tools to create whatever shape you want. So like rectangle, ellipse, polygon, etc. I used a triangle, so I made that myself. And you just press mask path and then you rotate it by double clicking. So that's fine. And it will sync at the same time so you don't lose anything. And okay, I don't know if I said that that was the final thing I was going to do, but I'm just going to create a new composition, and then the final thing I will explain, which is a complete and utter cheat. Doesn't always work. I need to use a good kind of example. That'll be just fine for a nice still mask. One of the favourite things I like to do, unless I'm actually properly masking, which is an absolute nightmare, is I like to roto brush. Well, I don't actually like to roto brush, but I use it when, well, it depends on the footage I'm using. So it just does that. My After Effects is a little bit laggy. So you just hold option to make it red and tell it what you don't want, basically. And roto brush moves along with the mask, basically, which is nice. So that's her turning into Killer Frost. Nice. So what you want to do is freeze it. Also make sure that this is dragged out all the way to the end of the composition. I don't think many people have actually mentioned this, but it's much more helpful when you're trying to use roto brush and it's like, oh no, you've got to do the roto brush again and everything looks messy. It's just really simply fixed by dragging that out all the way to the end of the composition. So you see, it dragged that all the way to the end of my clip. You won't see much yet, but what I'm going to do is change that. So go back into composition 4, now I'm going to add a nice black and white background. Okay, so now you've got Caitlin, who's in colour, right here, and you've got a black and white background. So that's because it's been masked out, but like I say, do not use Saber with this, because it's not going to work. Okay, where am I at? So this doesn't particularly count as an actual mask. It does not register it as a mask. It registers it as a completely different effect. And Saber isn't built to deal with that, so it won't work on the roto brush very easily. So yes, now you have that. And then you can do what I did earlier, and you can add the okay, one thing I'm gonna definitely try to do, this is credit to Chris for the idea. Well, for one thing, I'm gonna unplug my expansion drive. Okay, so I'm just plugging in my ever so lovely drawing tablet, and I'm going to show you guys how to do an outlining effect. It's really simple. It's much simpler than it seems. It's got no masking in it. So what I'm going to do now is, even though I've got roto brush on it, it should still work. So I'm going to click this tool right here. See? And now you've got a nice kind of, I'm going to go for white, I like white. Brushes, you can, if you drag that down, you can see, it's going to let me drag it down. My After Effects is lagging again. Okay, wait for that to redo itself. Yeah. I can't open my task manager, it's stuck at the bottom somewhere. Okay. Nope, I don't want Discord, I want my task manager. Okay. Close After Effects. Close button. Okay, so we're going to reboot that. Don't mind that. And just going to wait for it to reopen. I see. Okay, so you need something else plugged out. Okay. Doesn't like it when my drive's gone. So reboot After Effects, I'm going to show you guys how to do this cool effect. Shouldn't take too long. So. It's gradually getting there. There we go. To be honest, I don't really care if I lose anything in this project, I've already done it, just using it as an example. Okay, so whilst I'm booting up, if you have a tablet, a drawing tablet in fact, and a pen, it's much easier to be using that for this effect than it is to be using a mouse. It also goes for the same for roto brush and masking and that kind of stuff. I have really wobbly hands, and eventually it makes your hands hurt if you're not using a drawing tablet. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to a new composition, and we're going to put in Caitlin again. We're just going to roto brush her again quickly so I can show you guys a nice big difference in the effect. Okay. Always good when I lose control of my mouse. this off now. Adjust my mic. Just going to test to see if it's still working. Okay, yep, it's still working. I've disconnected my microphone, so if I sound a bit strange, don't mind me, please just follow what I am doing. After Effects should reboot itself now. See, I had a bit of a heart attack given the fact that I just disconnected my keyboard. Oh yeah, really good tip. If you don't want After Effects to crash, don't be double clicking it, or as it fires up, it will cause it to crash or get confused. So. Okay, so we're gonna close these compositions, close the render queue, open up a new composition, just call it comp 4, doesn't really matter. Use this. And this is better working on nice kind of still footage, by the way. It's about 2 seconds long, so I probably won't do the entire thing with this. But okay, here we go. Got roto brush here, ready. And you see this thing here, this thing right here, you need to pull that all the way to the end of it. Okay, that's going to follow now. So for this one, we don't want any roto brush on that. Delete that. This one we do. Yep, that's good. Just add a bit of black and white to this. Okay, now we've got Kaylin turning into Killer Frost as we speak. And what we're going to do now is we're going to click on this paintbrush tool. Okay, so set the colour to white or whatever colour you want, maybe something that goes with your project especially. For starters, we're going to start with really like kind of small one. And here's where your lovely drawing tablets will come in. If you don't have a drawing tablet, it's absolutely fine, but it is much better to have a drawing tablet because you need to do the stroke in one go. So this is going to take a while, so please just bear with me. It's not supposed to look completely like absolutely natural, by the way. If you change the paint and duration custom, so I'm going to set this to like 3 frames, so I'm going to have to undo that stroke. So redo that. Set the duration to custom, so this will disappear after 3 frames, giving you the opportunity to have 1 frame overlap in which your next outline will appear. Okay, so you got that. Now if you go down if you drop down, you go to effects, you minimize that one, you can see now that you've got a nice keyframe. Okay, and now you're on the next part. So this time we're gonna make it a little bit bigger. So if you just drag this down, diameter, and you make it a bit bigger. You can go for however big you want, by the way. And then you outline the outline. Again, even with a drawing tablet, my hand is super wobbly. It doesn't really matter though, because usually the theme you're trying to give off with this kind of outlining the outline idea is rather messy anyway. It's supposed to be. Might change the duration actually to 2 frames. So I can drag that back. Okay. So we're going to redo that. Just draw over the top of that. You might get that sometimes, it's fine. Okay, then you've got one frame crossover, that's fine. Change the diameter again to something else. You can even use different colours, by the way. You might want to go for a rainbow effect. I won't do this for the whole thing, but I'll give an idea of what it's supposed to look like. So she kind of moves a bit here, so just be careful of that. So eventually all these will disappear. Then she moves again, so as soon as that outline's gone, that will look absolutely fine. And you just keep doing this really until you kind of get to the outside point of it. I'm going to change the diameter again, going back to kind of a nice small one-ish. So this time we want to go back to outlining her so that it shows that she's moved. I kind of made a mistake there, but you know, whatever. Again, it works better, much better on still images or really slow moving ones. You don't really want this on fast moving images, makes it really, really inconvenient. Just continue to do this for a while, and then I'll show overall what it looks like. Okay, so that's kind of like the outlining effect right there. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but that's kind of an idea of what I want to get across. You can do anything with it. You can make your own like kind of zigzags with it, which is what I did in wherever it is. In side effects, so I'll just show that right here because my composition's a bit messed up in a moment. So I did that about right here, which is great, loved it. So I'm gonna reopen side effects, the actual thing. I don't want to save to that, and I'll show you exactly what I did for side effects. So if I open it up here, this is the one which I use it on, and instead of using just a general outline, I decided to go for zigzags. They weren't the best zigzags, but you know, cartoon, comic kind of thing, it still worked. And there is one more thing which I shall explain to you. Really, really easy, nice and simple. You will learn to love it and it saves a lot of things. If I disconnect that now, I don't need my drawing tablet anymore. Okay. Final thing is that we want to check out what this null object is. So let's create some random text. This won't be the best kind of idea of what it is, or how to use it actually. I am. So just rotate this a bit. It's just an example of one of the things it could do, so. Apologies for it not being really nicely spaced out, but you know, I'm just giving a tutorial. So quite literally, you can do a lot with this. It's not very neat, not really something that would look aesthetic. I'm going to sneeze. Okay, all you want to do is make all these 3D, lovely, nice, all that kind of stuff, and then link them all up to null 3. And mine's called null 3 because I've already got some nulls in the other one. And basically what it will do is it will rotate them all or scale them all that kind of thing at a time. It's really good for typography. So if I just reset that, it can literally just go I am null object, etc. I tend to use that a lot. And also once you're done with editing something and you want to move them all together, for example, if I've got this, you literally just select them all, and pre-composing is the best idea for it. It just creates it all into one layer. So as you can see, I've got loads and loads of pre-compositions in one layer. It allows you to move everything at once without having multiple layers. It's great. So yeah, I guess that's my After Effects tutorial today on some of the things that I do.